Mahabharata, Bhishma Pitamaha falls on day 10. Day 11 is important because that's the day the Bhagavad Gita is told by Sanjaya to Dhritarashtra, which is what we have as the scripture. So we find that this is a pattern in our scriptures, that very often it's not when the actual conversation happened that gets documented as our scriptures. It's usually somebody saying, this person asked this person the question, and then that person gave the result. So we'll see that even in Upanishad styles and things like that. And in the Puranas, very often, even the Ramayana is told that way. So Kagbhushandi is telling the narration of the Ramayana and saying, when Lord Shiva told Parvati the story of this was the way Shiva told the story. So Sanjaya is telling Dhritarashtra what Krishna told Arjuna on the battlefield. And why is it on day 11? Because Dhritarashtra wasn't listening to the commentary of the Mahabharata as it was happening, as we have been seeing. Day 1, this happened, day 2. Dhritarashtra didn't want to know, right? When Vedavyasa came and said, do you want Divya Drishti? He said no. And then he said, I'll give the Drishti to somebody else and then they can tell you. Because actually fair. He's never seen anything in his whole life. And then he gets sight only to see war and his children dying. It's like, it kind of made sense that he said no. But that's from a very emotional point of, worldly point of view. But you have to understand that what he said no to was Divya Drishti, which means you can see what God sees. Like, it's like the height of like, this is, and you know, when you hear things like this, that he said no to Divya Drishti, and in your head you're screaming out, you idiot. But we doing the same. Like we could also be having Divya Drishti now. It's not like we aren't given the chance to be able to be seeing what God's seeing. And then we also think, no, Netflix is fine. Anyway, the day 10, Sanjaya tells Dhritarashtra, Bhishma Pitama has fallen. And he's devastated. He's absolutely devastated that Bhishma Pitama has fallen, because this is his fatherly figure, right? They didn't know their father. Bhishma Pitama brought them up, both him and Pandu, because their father died very young. Vichitravir died very, very young. He was unhealthy, tuberculosis. He died of TB. Bhishma Pitama brought them up. And so this is the only father he's known. And so, of course, the devastation. But he's also not an ordinary person, right? Bhishma Pitama was like this larger than life person. So there was this incredible sense of security that he's there, nothing can go wrong. If he's looking after Hastinapur, Hastinapur is sorted. If he is looking after me, I am sorted. There's this incredible sense of dependence that we create on a person like Bhishma Pitama, who is so incredibly capable. And we do it in certain ways in our lives, right? If we have a person in our life who's very, very reliable, then we just leave it to them to take care of things. And you know, I'll find myself doing exactly that. But they're there, okay, fine. And then I'll think, no, it's not fine. Like, one, that burden shouldn't fall on them. 2, I should be capable in my own right so that I don't have this incredible insecurity when my sense of support gets taken away. When my sense of support gets taken away and I feel lonely and I feel sad and I feel there's an emptiness because this person was beautiful, that's fine. But when we see in depth people feeling sad because now they feel vulnerable or they feel, that they now have this work to do or this sense of responsibility which they've inherited, which feels like a burden on them, it's actually quite painful. painful for the person going through it. It's painful for everyone else to watch also. So you're not really only grieving, you're grieving the person and you're grieving your so-called freedom, but it wasn't freedom, it was tamas of not doing what we all capable of doing. And then the Trashra is that personality type who was so quick to shirk responsibility and not grow. So you can see this throughout his life. And it sounds like I'm really picking on the Trashra now, but I'm doing it so that we can introspect whether we do it. Opportunity comes to learn, he doesn't want to learn. Yeah. Advice is given, he doesn't want to take the advice. He gets given the kingdom, he takes the kingdom, but he doesn't really rule the kingdom. It's still Bhishma Pitama doing all the work. And Vidur did all the work. Even more than Bhishma Pitama, Vidur did all the work for the Trashra. And did all the running because the Trashra was blind. He couldn't do all the running around. Vidur did all the running around. But blind people can have other skills. They can still be intellectually tuned. In fact, they can be very perceptive. Because physical sight is not there, sometimes they're more intuitive about what people are saying while they're saying it. None of that. He didn't do any of that. He relied on Vidur. He relied, even here you see, he's relying on Sanjaya. So that sense of, what's the word, huh? That lack of independence. That always leaning to lean. I remember when we were growing up, I can't remember which relative it was, and I put my hand on my chin and I was sitting on the table and I got such a telling off. And I was like, now what's wrong with this? It wasn't my parents, it was some other relative that told me, and they're like, like the so much burden you have that you can't hold your own head up. And I thought, no, I'm just tired. It's just like a cool position. I'm sure I saw it in some movie or something. Like I was probably just mimicking someone. I probably didn't think I had such a big burden. I was a kid. But no, like the whole world's burden is not on you, that you have to hold your head up with your hand. You sit up straight and at the time, I thought it was so exaggeratedly unfair and unnecessary, this telling off. But I get it. It's like you have the ability to hold your head up without it being supported. Why are you supporting it? Different if I'm a model and I'm posing for 2 seconds, right? But we're not doing that. We do it that sense of, and maybe we don't understand, maybe I'm not thinking I'm burdened, but it's just these small subtle things sometimes in our culture that would get told to us by our elders, and then it stays in our head, like hold yourself up, don't lean, don't even lean on you, like forget leaning on someone else. Not that I'll take someone else's hand and put my hand on that, no, but we do. Emotionally, we do. We leaning on someone else. We depending on someone else. And so the Trashra character of this lack of independence results in lack of growth. Yeah. Our own personality cannot flourish when we're not able to take the responsibilities and truly do our best. Maybe not the best as to somebody else's capacity, but the best that we can do. And then we see the grief is so much more. Right now, this is not grief for the person, this is grief for myself. Like they gone, I have to work hard. My security is gone. So, interesting thing about grief, when grief happens. Whereas you see Arjuna's grief and Yudhishthira's grief, there was no dependency on Bhishma Pitama. Zero. They loved him for who he was, this glorious personality, this paternal, fatherly figure that was kind and compassionate and affectionate. And um, nurturing towards them. And so, a lot of the times in spirituality, when we talk about selfishness and selflessness, we don't think of this as being selfish, that my neediness on the other person, so that when they go, my grief is for myself. We don't think of that as selfishness, but it is. And so, I don't know if I've got the quote quite right, but there's a quote that says, humility is not thinking less about yourself. Humility is thinking about yourself less. and that's the idea here. Selfishness or humility or that spiritual tendency is just this, that, I need people, or I depend on people, or I need. And not that none of us should rely on other people or take people's support. Of course, we welcome to. The Pandavas have the support of Krishna. They have the support of Draupadi's family. They have the support of some of the other people that have come forward to participate. It's not that, but they're still able to stand on their own when they need to stand on their own, and they're capable of it. And so then taking support is also fine. And they have the support of each other. Actually, the Pandavas are a beautiful example, because the Pandavas really supported each other. And yet each one of them is a force on their own and can stand alone. And we see this mainly when they had done the Ashwamedha Yagna. I didn't spend too much time talking about it, but each of them went in a different direction for the Ashwamedha Yagna, and they dealt with the kings, and they dealt with the armies, and they dealt with the wealth and the negotiations, and each one did such a phenomenal job. And they were alone for those whole few months when they were doing that process of the Ashwamedha Yagna. Okay, so Bhishma Pitama falls. Dhritarashtra is devastated. I think I mentioned, he said, this is all my fault. Sanjaya says, yes, it is all your fault. And then in some ways, Dhritarashtra is so thick-skinned. And then he says, how could this happen? Bhishma Pitama is invincible. How could this happen? And that's when Sanjaya starts. Well, day one. And of course, the first thing was the Bhagavad Gita. And so that's when it's narrated. And in terms of storyline, in terms of what's happening on day 11. But this is what, a quick recap. And I know I get told off because I keep going backwards, but this was only day 10. I'm not going back too far. When Bhishma Pitama was fighting Arjuna and Shikandi on the chariot, this is a really, really beautiful point. I've heard from another speaker of the Mahabharata who has said, Bhishma Pitama says, the Kauravas are luckier than the Pandavas. And they go to how are the Kauravas luckier than the Pandavas? And he says, because we are facing and looking at Krishna as we fall. Yeah. The Pandavas are with Krishna. When they fall, facing us. They're not lucky. Which is true, because in chapter 8 of the Gita, it is said, it's so beautiful because at the moment we're doing chapter 8 of the Gita, right? The very last thought you think is where you go. And so if you think of the Lord at the time of the death, you go to the Lord. And so Bhishma Pitama is saying this because he's looking at Krishna. He's looking at Krishna as the arrows are hitting him and piercing through his skin. And the description is that there's no place in his body where there's more than 2 fingers worth of skin. There's that many arrows that have pierced him. Yeah. And that's, 2 is the most places there's less than 2 fingers worth of skin anywhere on his body where an arrow hasn't pierced him. And even as the arrows are piercing him, I definitely didn't tell you all this last week. He's praising Arjuna. He's saying only Arjuna's arrows can have this strength. Like imagine that arrow would have been piercing through him with the speed at which Arjuna sent it and the sharpness and the force of it. And what is he thinking? How cool is my Arjuna? How swift these arrows have flown. How precise they have hit. How sturdy is their. And so, even as the arrows are hitting him, he's not sitting there saying, ouch. He's praising Arjuna's archery. And again, I think it's Dushashan was in the chariot with him. Maybe I didn't say this bit also last week. So Dushashan gets defeated by, I think it's Bhim only. And then he's running away. And then he jumps into Bhishmacharya's chariot. This happens a few times in the war. Somebody's fighting with someone, they can't handle it, they run away and they go jump into somebody else's chariot. I haven't gone so much into detail, but it keeps happening because there's like so many fights in one day. Like, how many times to tell you all these things? So Dushashan's in his chariot and Bhishma Pitama is praising how amazing these arrows are. And then there's this beautiful dialogue that Bhishma Pitama says, which I wanted to read out to y'all. But before that, as the arrows are piercing Bhishma Pitama, also what I didn't tell y'all was the devatas have already collected in the heavens because this is a monumental moment. Bhishma Pitama falling is a monumental moment. And they're showering flowers from the sky. And so we see this in all the Puranic story, in the videos that they make in the Ramayana, that they flower showers in the sky. Every time I would see this, I would think, I wonder if it actually flowered. Like, were there actually flower petals there? Apparently so. They were actually flower petals falling from the skies onto Bhishma Pitama to glorify the life that he has lived. And the voices in the heavens, which nobody else heard, only Bhishma Pitama heard, because of course he grew up in the heavens with these people, is his brothers, the Vasus. Long ago, the 8 Vasus were cursed. Mother Ganga gave birth to each one of them and killed them. Bhishma Pitama was the last one, the 8th one, who didn't get killed and had to live this really long life. But it was his last life. Did I tell you all this? This is what he was granted. He was cursed to have to live this life, but this would be his last. And that's why it was such a long life, and that's why there was so much heartache. It's why like all the heartache that was still pending had to be finished so he could actually leave. And that's why the flowers are raining from the heavens, because done, you done. How nice would that feel? I'm done. My last life and it's over. How cool would that feeling be? Oh, that's why he's smiling. And he's looking at Krishna as he's falling. So yeah, the voices in the heavens, they were saying, it's time. It's time for you to come back to us. And so Bhishma Pitama smiles, and he had put down his weapons and he received those arrows. And then once he he had fallen. He had already fallen. And this is what he says. O Janardana, Krishna. Janardana is one of Krishna's names. Surely victory comes to a man through your grace. So victory can only come through Krishna's, the Lord's grace. And defeat overtakes him through your worth. Translates as anger, maybe not quite the right word. I don't think the Sanskrit word is anger. Kind of although here in the Mahabharata, I think the word might have been used because it's a war. It's really this cleansing of the earth from sin. So maybe it's that sense of destroyer mode. Even though it's Krishna, the Mahabharata more is definitely destroyer mode, which is Shiva energy. But so defeat comes because you decided, basically. You are the sole refuge. You assure your devotees your protection. Nothing is wonderful for one who has taken shelter of you. Nothing is, I mean, there's only wonderful for one who has taken shelter for you. And so look how beautifully he dies. He's not dying now, but this essentially is his fall. He's looking at Krishna. He is glorifying Arjuna's skill and being able to appreciate the person who is shooting him. And then once he's shot, he has the presence of mind to tell the Lord, it's your grace. Who wins is your grace. Who dies is your grace. And it really doesn't matter if we win or lose. That's what he's saying. Because if we have surrendered to you, we have your protection. And so winning is not protection. Yeah. Losing is protection also, especially in Bhishma Pitama's case, because he had to be purified of all that sin so that this really could be his last life. How much pain the arrows would have had, huh? He even says the next morning, day 11, we on day 11, they come to see him and they bring doctors and he says, no need for doctors. I am ready to receive death. So he sends the doctors away. Then they bring things to comfort him and he turns that away as well. Somewhere in the middle of the night, this happens. Karna goes to visit Bhishma Pitama. So Karna hasn't been a part of the war. He hears of the fall. Everybody was there. Everybody mourned. Everybody was with Bhishma Pitama. Everybody leaves. They put sticks with fire to keep light around him, and they post guards to look after him from wild animals. And somewhere in the middle of the night, when everybody has gone to sleep, Karna steals out to go and see Bhishma Pitama. And he's crying, holding on to Bhishma Pitama's feet. And Bhishma Pitama says, who is this whose tears are so hot? And Karna says, who he is, I am Karna, who you have despised. This is the word he uses, despised. And he introduces himself, I am the son of Radha. I am, Karna, who you have despised. And Bhishma Pitama replies, you are the son of Kunti. And I have loved you as much as I have loved every other grandchild. This would have been such an incredible moment for Karna. Like Karna, who had such a hard, horrible life, has now had some incredible moments, huh? And I think that's one of the most beautiful things about Karna's life. People get lost in feeling sorry for him, but actually he's had such incredibly beautiful moments. Like if you want to really glorify Karna, look that he gets told this by Bhishma Pitama. Yeah. He got praised by Surya, he got praised by Indra, he got praised by Kunti, he got praised by Krishna. And he gets really choked. And he said, and Bhishma did speak very harshly to Karna. Very, very harsh words he would use. They would really have a sting, his words, when he spoke to Karna. And he spoke so affectionately to everyone else. So, even when you hear these words, you think, whoa. And so he tells Karna, you made it your life's purpose to hurt the Pandavas. My harsh words were only to deter you from doing so, because I knew one day it would bring you pain and suffering. I was trying to save you. Imagine that, huh? Because now it's true. Karna hates that he has brought the Pandavas so much suffering. Of course, too late, but Bhishma Pitama tried to stop it. by reprimanding and, dismissing and correcting. It was always correct. He never just insulted Karna. Whatever he said was always correct in terms of Dharma point of view. And he didn't indulge in, son of a chariot driver kind of slang to insult. He would say things like, you opposed Dharma, you haven't lived up to the character of a Kshatriya, which were all very factual things that Karna would have lapsed. So Karna ran away when Duryodhana was captured by the Gandhava. And then, Bhishma Pitama would be like, what kind of Kshatriya is that? And what kind of friend? You said you were such a good friend. You ran away when he was captured. So that would be the kind of insults that Bhishma, it wouldn't be petty, just, belittling stuff. It would be things that you're not holding up your glory. And so suddenly Karna reflects back and sees that Bhishma had only been doing everything for his welfare. At the time, it didn't feel like it, but now he can see it. And this also, hindsight, in hindsight, we are always so much more intelligent. So sometimes this word faith, because at the time, you can't see it. You can't see that this person has my interest at heart and is actually loving me. You think this person's hating me and putting me down. Faith. And when should I have this faith? When I've assessed who it is that's doing it. So if someone like Dhritarashtra does it, Duryodhana does it, petty. These people are petty. Even Bhim, I'm not going to say only Kaurava names, even if Bhim insults, Bhim can be a little bit petty. He's really sweet, but he can be, Somebody like Yudhishthira says something. Somebody like Bhishma Pitama says something. They're not petty. So if they are critical, it's going to be somewhere in there, it's going to be some benefit for me only. Even if they're harsh in how they're doing it, even though I don't want to deal with harshness. And then today, maybe if I have enough time, we will focus a little bit on that. This, how we perceive insults, how we deal with praise. I wanted to talk about that. So then Karna says to Bhishma Pitama, please forgive me any harsh words I've spoken to you. Now, this is where you see, this is the part of Karna that we praise, that we love. This is the part of Karna that makes us feel, wow, right? If only things were different. Because Bhishma Pitama was so harsh to him his whole life, and yet he knows Bhishma Pitama is an incredible human being, incredible soul. And so if he has fallen and he's still here, sometimes people leave and we don't know they're going to leave, but here we have opportunity. And when we have opportunity, and this is such a nice thing for us to know, that what's the first thing we should do? Apologize and ask for forgiveness for anything we may have done. And chances are we would have. Chances are we would have done something. In our tradition, we had growing up, when I was growing up, we still had a lot of family come and visit and stay with us in our homes. It's so sad that people don't do that anymore. It's actually really sad that it doesn't happen anymore, because so many traditions are now lost because it doesn't happen anymore. So we had family come from India or from Fiji or from so many different parts of the world, and they'd stay 3 weeks, What makes you laughing? You know what I mean. And sometimes they'd set up temporary residence in our house, go here, come back, go here, come. But it was all good. Like it was all really, really good. There was zero, in fact, we liked people come, more food, more this, more that. And whenever they would leave, I found it really interesting because my grandmother was the oldest of all of her siblings. My father's the oldest of all the siblings, meaning of that whole generation. I call the first cousins, second cousins, they were the eldest. So they would always come and say, Bul chuk maaf kijiye, before leaving the house. And it would be done with such sincerity. Like I used to watch it thinking, why are they saying that? Like, they've stayed with us like family for like a whole 3 weeks and now they're going. And then I would see the parents teaching the kids, not only to say it to the elders, but to come and tell us, because they shared their room with us. So they would say, Bul chuk maaf kijiye, means whatever I've done wrong, please forgive. And this is not even I'm dying. This is just I'm leaving. And why is it there? Because who knows when we're going to meet these people again, especially those days where air travel wasn't so constant and all of that. You didn't know if there was going to be another trip. You'd meet this person after sometimes years. And asking for forgiveness is such a beautifully humbling thing. Because of course I'm not perfect. And so, one, forgive my imperfections. Itself, just to think that forgive my imperfections is humbling. But two, let me also not continue having them. Let me try and be a little bit better, is the idea. And I'd really see that in the guests that came to stay with us. Their thoughtfulness about helping out, their consideration, their respect for my parents, my grandparents. They would like that sense of, blending in and not taking for granted, and then giving back in terms of gifts or praise or encouragement. And so it's asking forgiveness creates the mindset of remembering that I have room to improve in a very doable way. All of us have room to improve, but actually some of it's like I have to really work towards doing it, but some of it I can actually do straight away, just if I'm in that mindset. And then he says, now that you have fallen, unfortunately, I will have to come onto the battlefield. And so I ask for your blessings. And so before someone who is such a glorious person, before an elder, somebody who has nurtured us, somebody who has wisdom, we ask for their blessings. We ask for their forgiveness. We ask for their blessings. Because their blessings really work. The elders, when they bless us, it really does an impact in our lives. Bhishma Pitama is beautiful. He says, you have forgiven everything. Because actually Karna said quite a few things. Bhishma Pitama didn't pretend. No, nothing. No, you're forgiven. And it's real and it's genuine, right? This is what makes Bhishma Pitama, again, glorious. He was so truthful. Really, really, this quality of Satyam, Bhishma Pitama really lived. He said what had to be said. So he was affectionate, and then he says, you are forgiven. And then he says, I bless you that you fight honorably and you die gloriously. Die gloriously? Because there's no way. there's just no way that Karna is going to live. Again, Bhishma Pitama, so truthful, but it's not an insult. It's not discouraging. It's like, you want my blessing? This is a blessing. The blessing is when you die, which is going to happen, may it be glorious. And he also blesses that Karna has the fame that he so desires. And you know, this, when I read this, and even earlier when I had read this, Bhishma Pitama gives blessings. It reminds me. So remember when Yudhishthira came to Bhishma Pitama, he said, may you win. Now when Karna comes, he says, may you fight well and are you glorious. Now actually, I have read the Mahabharata. Sometimes we don't absorb so many details. We had a camp in Coimbatore with the junior chicks, and we were doing Vibhishan Gita, and so we did this one day of full war. So tiring to do these things. So they had to get water balloons and they had to get everything, and they had to have this full-on war. And the kids, of course, were so excited. But we had to create this whole Vibhishan Gita atmosphere, right? Like the whole Ramayana and that sense of fighting for Dharma and things like that. And so, of course, as an activity for a youth camp, there's so much going on when the youth are there about leadership skills and teamwork and, you know, consideration for others and learning to strategize and learning to have patience and learning all of these qualities. We want them to be able to learn all through these activities we do, and done really beautifully because it's our own camp and campus. And so I remember we were sitting, Swamiji, me, and Nikalanandaji, usually we are all there at the camp together. And the two teams, they sent the captains of the war. So it was all very ceremonious because we really do try to make it as real for the kids as possible. The kids was very solemn, like it was war. So the first team leader came and he bowed down to Swamiji. And Swamiji said, may you be victorious. And this was me. Decided. That means it's decided. Like if Swamiji says, may you be like, why are we fighting this game? Why is Swamiji, you just, and I was really surprised that Swamiji had already decided, because he'll usually let it unfold the way it unfolds. And then the second team leader came in and I thought, what's he going to say now? And he said, may you fight well. I thought, oh. And then Bhishma Pitama. Here, he already knew who was victorious. If Krishna's on the battlefield, we already know who's victorious. Well, definitely he knew who was going to be victorious. And so then what blessing do you give somebody else? You're going to lose. But you can still bless them. And so what we need to understand is, even when we're going to lose, right? If that's what, if like, so we apply for the job and we don't get it, we'll consider that loss. You know, some Gita chanting competition, and how many people can win? First prize, second prize, third prize. So then you lose. But there's still blessings in that. We don't understand that it's not the winning that's the blessing. Yeah. The blessing is whatever's said, and it's may you fight well. May you die honorably. Yeah. But what Bhishma Pitama said, may you fight with Dharma. Because, you know, this was a really interesting thing. Dharma fell with Bhishma Pitama. I say this with a very deep sigh because when Dharma falls, like the glory of Bhishma Pitama is not only that he stood, Dharma stood. Because he stood, Dharma stood. And so Karna walks into the battlefield, and actually I haven't said what was horrible. And Bhishma Pitama tells him this in the whole conversation. Bhishma Pitama says to him that Your greatest flaw was you told Duryodhana what he wanted to hear and not what he should have heard. The only person he could have potentially listened to was you. And then he, to the effect, says, stop doing that. So Karna wanted to be a good friend. And his definition of a good friend was saying what he thought Duryodhana wanted to hear. And that was his biggest mistake. This is why Karna is on the side of adharma. Dharma doesn't please people. Adharma is people pleasing. Dharma nurtures people's growth. So the world will say he was a good friend. They will say that was his greatest virtue. He was a terrible friend. So now what happens? Day 11 morning, Duryodhana tells Karna, you be the commander-in-chief, you my greatest asset and ally. You're the only person here who hates the Pandavas. And this sentence stings Karna because he no longer hates the Pandavas. There's nobody that Duryodhana has that hates the Pandavas. Only his brothers, who Bhim is consistently killing day by day. I think at this stage, there's like 40 of them left. So Karna says, no, I should not be the commander-in-chief. Drona should be the commander-in-chief. He's your guru. He's everyone else's guru. Nobody can fault it. You make one person the commander and not the others. Others might feel they are kings of much greater kingdoms. You give it to me, they will be insulted. The right thing to do is give it to Drona because then nobody else is insulted. Plus, you shouldn't insult Drona by not giving it to him because he's your guru and he has promised to fight on your side. What is this? Dharma. Correct advice. And what does Duryodhana do? You're right. Goes straight to Drona and praises Drona and says, please be the commander of chief because you are so amazing. So much praise. Karna said, Duryodhana did. This is why Bhishma Pitama was so angry with Karna. You could have guided him. But what did you do? Batta. Maska. Feel good. We give so much importance to that. On the spiritual journey, that we don't give importance to feel good. We give importance to being good. Such a huge difference, huh? Even for me, myself. When something happens, do I give importance to making myself feel good? Or do I give importance to making myself be good? So let's say somebody insults me. Now feel good, I go complain about that person to my friend. My friend will tell me, you're right, they're a horrible person. I feel good. Or do I focus on being good? So easy not to, so easy to do the feel good. Even when somebody else is whinging, so easy to do the feel good. So Drona is an interesting character. Why was Drona on the side of the Kauravas and Dharma? Because he's a lot like Duryodhana. How? How is he a lot like Duryodhana? When he's receiving this praise Poof. Pulka. Is the word pulka in Hindi or Gujarati? Sometimes I mix the two up. When you make rotli in Gujarati, chapati in Hindi, then you have to put it at the end on the heat directly and it puffs up. If it doesn't puff up, you haven't made it right. And when it puffs up, it's filled with hot air. Praise makes us poof. Drona loved it. Why? Because Drona had an insecurity. He always didn't think he was good enough. This feeling of not good enough really leads to problems on the path of Dharma. Never mind confidence and all the rest of it. On the path of Dharma, it causes problems. Because now you're so susceptible to praise, or you're so susceptible to somebody who makes you feel that they think you're good enough. This neediness again comes in. You need them to think you're good enough for you to feel better about yourself, because we don't feel good enough by ourselves. This dependency comes in. Spirituality, independent. Independence is a huge part of spirituality. Praise, we give poof. Now, what does he say? Because he's so pleased that he has been praised so beautifully by Duryodhana, he says, ask me a boon and I shall give it to you. And Duryodhana says, capture Yudhishthira and the war will be over. And Drona thinks, oh wow, capture him, not kill him. Like, something good. Maybe Duryodhana now has some kind of little brotherly love for he doesn't want to kill Yudhishthira. And this is Duryodhana's reply. If by chance, not that we ever could, but if by chance we did kill Yudhishthira, Arjuna would kill us all in the very next minute. Who's saying this? Duryodhana. Why are they fighting this war? Like this much he knows. And still he's fighting the war. This is delusion for you, I tell you. Duryodhana is saying this. That firstly, you cannot kill him because Arjuna won't let you. If by chance you did manage to kill Yudhishthira, because he's not the strongest warrior on the battlefield, he's good in his own right. Please don't get me wrong. Just that, on this battlefield, there's some real stalwarts. Arjuna will kill you the very next minute. So, Arjuna had taken that vow, right? Not even one blood of Yudhishthira's will touch the floor. Anyone who causes Yudhishthira's blood to fall, he will kill. I read this line, I had to put that in the book and I had to think, what's wrong with Duryodhana, man? Like, why is he fighting this war if he himself can say this dialogue? Delusion, such an incredible thing. He says, no, capture him because we won't be able to kill him. And then once we capture him, I will challenge him to another game of dice and send him back to the forest. Day 11 of the war, after Bhishma Pitama has fallen. What do you do with deluded people like this? You have to kill them only. If you're going to be this stubborn in delusion, then he only said you cannot kill them. He's only saying Krishna will protect them. But if he still wants to oppose Dharma and Krishna, then well, I guess he's really asking for it. Then he suddenly thinks Dronacharya has a soft spot. Because Dronacharya now replies. Sorry, I should tell you what Dronacharya replies. Yes, I'm telling. I will be able to capture Yudhishthira for as long as Arjuna is not on the battlefield. Arjuna is my student, but he has far exceeded me. He now has celestial weapons far greater than what I have access to. And so if Arjuna is on the battlefield, I will not be able to reach Yudhishthira. So take away Arjuna and I will capture Yudhishthira for you. I give you this boon. This makes Duryodhana think, oh, Dronacharya is soft for Arjuna. Hello. How is this being soft? It's a fact. He's telling you what he can do and what he can't do, right? And it's not like the whole world doesn't know that Arjuna has the Pashupati Astra from Shiva himself. Nobody else has the Pashupati Astra from Shiva. So Dronacharya is just saying factual. He has more weapons than I have access to. Yeah, I won't be able to do it. So he gives the boon, he gives the conditions in which he can give the boon. So the day starts. Now, Duryodhana thinks he's soft to the Pandavas, so he makes an announcement to the whole Kaurava army that today Dronacharya will capture Yudhishthira. Why? So we can challenge him to another game. Now you make an announcement to the whole army. Somebody's going to go and tell the other side. Somebody runs and goes and tells the Pandavas that, this is the plan. They want to capture Yudhishthira. Today they have Dronacharya is going to be targeting to capture Yudhishthira. And then when he says why they want to capture Yudhishthira, to make him play another game of dice, at that point in time, Arjuna, salute. He is no longer my guru. Who? Dronacharya. If he can agree to this, then I will fight now no longer as my guru. See, Bhishma Pitama, he couldn't fight. He couldn't fight Bhishma Pitama because guru. Bhishma Pitama was a guru. He taught them, right? He taught them scriptures, he taught them warfare, he taught them politics, he taught them so much and with so much love. And Arjuna had that much love for Drona also. But look at the clarity here. If he can agree to this, no more. I will fight. Thank goodness. Thank goodness he has this one. So Yudhishthira looks at Arjuna and says, you have to make sure. Arjuna is like, don't worry, I won't leave your side. It's a really sweet brotherly exchange here, like Yudhishthira kind of going, and Arjuna is like, it's fine. And nobody got anywhere near Yudhishthira. Arjuna was there the entire day. Like nobody could get anywhere near Yudhishthira. Yudhishthira could have been, sitting at the spa. Arjuna was just fully, nobody could touch him. Day 11 over. Duryodhana's furious. And everybody could see. It's not like somebody fought the war there and everyone can see what was happening. And Drona said very clearly, I cannot beat Arjuna. So now what should Duryodhana say at the end of the day? Let's come up with a strategy. No, that's not what he says. What does he say? I guess you aren't as competent a warrior as you thought you were. His words. So, when Duryodhana spoke, it was so cringe. Really, really, you cringe at the things he said. And he would say the same kind of things to Bhishma Pitama. But Bhishma Pitama is grandfather. Even though he'd feel bad, child. Drona's not going to have that same compassion. Drona doesn't like it. So, morning, what happened? Poof, with the praise. Now, what's going to happen when Duryodhana talks to him like this? He's commander of chief, but how's he being spoken to? Yeah, pin. Poof, boom. It's worse than that, right? It's worse than a pin through a needle. It's harsh. And this is the thing about praise and insult. If you're going to react to one, you're going to react to the other. Also, people don't really know. Again, we're not really taught how to take praise. People are really bad with taking praise. Something like 70% of people, when you praise them, they dismissive of it. Like, no. Even you say, nice dress. Oh, this whole thing. And sometimes that learned behavior. So why do we do this? Well, psychologists will say why we don't accept praise, because we have two conflicting inner belief system. One inner belief system is when somebody offers you something, you feel a need to take it. So they've offered you praise. So you feel a need to take it. And the other one is we should be humble and not arrogant. So then we don't take praise. So I should take it, but I shouldn't take it, but I should take it, but I shouldn't take it. And then they just don't know how to deal with praise. Many people. So what's the best way to deal with praise? Say thank you. But the way in which we do it will tell us how comfortable we are with it. So because we don't want to be like Drona and become poof with praise, we think we shouldn't take the praise. But that's not what happens. Just because I don't take it doesn't mean it doesn't have an effect on me. Remember, it's thinking about myself less, not thinking less about myself. So when praise comes along in my personal journey, the advice that I have felt the most helpful, remind myself of all that I have had help with to get this praise. So if somebody says, class was great, hours of listening to Guru there, and Guruji, and Swamiji. And I'm so blessed. I've really had the privilege of being in their presence for hours and hours. And so, thank you. My Guru's grace. Really, for class, it can only be Guru's grace. They only can teach you this, and then you can only say it properly if they give that grace that you can say it properly. So then let's say something else. Something like, pretty. Thank you. What did I do to accomplish that? Absolutely nothing. So there's no need to go poof. I need not say it, but in terms of managing my going poof, that reactiveness to the praise. And then the other thing that I found very, very helpful. So one, we think about what we've received to be able to be in this position, to be able to receive the praise. Receive it, but know that you're not receiving it alone. There's this whole army that went into me having this ability or capacity or skill set. The second thing is factual. Is it factual? If it's not, you can still say thank you. But you know it's not the truth. People can be very, what's the word? Enthusiastic. Generous, that's the word I'm using, was thinking of. People can be very generous with their praise, and it's good for us to be generous with praising others. And then obviously, if it's good to be generous when praising others, others are going to be generous with praising me, because it's good to be generous to praise. So when I'm receiving the praise, I should know, fact, no, thank you. I'm still saying thank you, but I know that's it. Masala got added, the crunchy bits got added on top of the masala, then oatmeal got added on top of that. What's the actual bit? That thin cracker at the bottom, that's my praise. On top of that, the dressing, the seasoning, the garnishing, all of that, discount, 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 discount. Because people will be generous with praise, and we should be, and they should be. It's very encouraging. Receiving praise. Why be factual? Because when insult comes, this technique really helps. Yeah. Is it factual? And I'll only be able to do it with insult if I do it with praise also. So someone said to me, "You've become too fat now." Factual. Now what is there to feel bad about? It's factual. Yeah. Or somebody says, "You've become funny now." Apparently, factual. But nothing to feel great about. It's just a fact. It works in exactly the same way. So there's no extra charge when you see it as fact rather than praise, or you see it as fact rather than insult. And then what you do with it, of course, then that's choice. If I am funnier, then we make sure we add to that, get even funnier. Fat, no need to add to that and get even fatter. No need. We decide objectively using intellect over mind. How we deal with praise will largely determine how we deal with insult. Practicing with praise is easier than practicing with insult. So, today's homework. Why are you laughing? I said, on Tuesday, I said I'm reintroducing homework in all the classes. What's this tamas that we don't do homework? So, first homework was asking forgiveness. This is hard. But sometimes we know we've done something and we've been putting off asking for forgiveness. Karna asked for forgiveness because Bhishma Pitama fell. Ask. Sometimes we think it's not needed. They know, I'm sorry. Ask. Sometimes we think I'll just make it up to them. I'll be good now. Ask. Ask for. If there's something in your mind that you are aware of, that you have faulted, and you haven't yet asked for forgiveness, ask. Second homework, because not everyone will do that, because not everyone has to ask at this point in time in their life for forgiveness. Some of you might think, nah, I'm fine. Maybe you are also. Right now, I think I'm okay. So, this homework you can definitely do. Give praise. Why is the homework to give praise? Because an interesting thing happens when you give praise, you get praised. Then when you get praised, There's two things you have to do. Thank you. And then discount, discount, discount. Don't forget to say thank you and own it first, because it's really horrible for the other person if you don't accept it. So not nice. Right? Like they so happily giving you the praise and you're like, no, 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 no. Oh, wrong. Let them have their moment of giving it. It's their punya. We have to allow other people punya. So you also give, you also get punya. And then when you get praise, then homework is very clear. What are we going to do? Thank you. Very sincerely. So that they feel so nice that you accepted their praise. Then in your own head, don't become every time you get praised, remind yourself, rehearsal for getting insulted. This is rehearsal for getting insulted. Because Drona got so praised in the morning, and by night only he got insulted. Same. We will also feel similar situation. So nice to rehearse with praise. Then when insult comes, you'll think, performance time. The praise with the relaxed fun, but dress rehearsal, not so serious. Insult is serious. We have to be in top form. Any questions? I actually planned a lot more. Huh? I planned day 12 also. I only finished day 11. And nothing happened on day 11. Well, Gita got taught. Yudhishthira got to laugh. Go to spa. Duryodhana showed just how deluded he is just yet. Question? Why, thank you. My Guru's grace. Why were the 8 brothers cursed? Something to do with the cow, right? They stole the cow or they hid the cow. The rishi had a cow and they hid the cow.
Oh, they did, and they were cursed so much.
They were cursed? No. It was a builder. Yeah, they troubled some rishi. And it had something to do with the cow, if I'm not mistaken. Who remembers now? That was so early in the Mahabharata. She asked why were the 8 vessels cursed.
Remember the uncle in the dice game? I forget his name.
Shakuni in the dice game? Yeah.
Where was he in the war?
Yeah, he was fighting with the Kauravas in the war. Yeah, no, in many battles. I haven't gone into it.
He wanted the Kauravas.
Hmm.
That was his bad.
He loved the Pandavas. He hated the Kauravas. Yes, Shakuni.
Like, was he doing anything?
He was fighting in the war with the Kauravas. He was hiding them. He didn't do anything too sneaky during the war. He fought. He died. Well, not yet. It was Nakula. Nakula had said, I vow to kill Shakuni. So that will happen. It's day 11 only. We got 7 more days to go. Last question, yeah.
People, they're conflicted between receiving praise and then not being able to, like they don't want to take praise. What about those people who praise themselves?
What about people who praise themselves? Yeah. Yeah, interesting ways in which we react to praise. Sometimes when we praise someone, they'll think, who are you to praise me? I'm actually too good to get praise from you. There's even those kind of people. Yeah, there's many different ways in which we react to praise. People who praise themselves. What's your question?
Just like, what's their inner conflict?
What's they don't seem to have inner conflict. They Duryodhana camp, deluded. So deluded. Right? I mean, to have confidence about our abilities is not delusion. And to praise ourselves excessively, definitely delusion. Because we can't do anything ourselves. None of us can do anything ourselves. There's always people helping and there's always people contributing. And so many people taught us how to do it, and infrastructure exists, and everybody is holding up the infrastructure. And even to do this class, I didn't create Zoom. Zooming already existed, and because Zoom existed, so much is happening. And then if somebody says, you're doing so much work, how am I doing so much work? Zoom is doing a lot of the work. But yes, I took the class. Thank you. In my head, Zoom is doing all the work. Well, a lot of the work. I did little bit work, which is glorious. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhavet Asato Ma Satkamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritangamaya Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om